Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. I just noticed that I came on here with one drink with nothing to fill it up, but we'll wing it. Today, we have Kefrene.
What's up?
Goes by Kev. I didn't know how bad I was going to butcher that.
Nah, you got it right.
But then we have Ricky and Dre from the MMG crew. And Kefrene is the owner of Elevate University.
That's right.
And you and I have had a lot of discussions on social media, and it's one of those, today was the first time we've met in person. And it was kind of one of those deals that I have a lot of respect for people on the content level of social and the consistency side of it. And you've just been kind of one of those people that I feel like you do a phenomenal job of that. You're very well spoken when you're reaching out to individuals, and rarely do I get conversations that I'm having with people on that forefront that I'm like, wow, that's really good. I want to have this person on the podcast. So
appreciate that.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for coming on. But let's start off with a little bit of backstory on you and what has brought you to where you're at now.
Well, I appreciate the comments, and I appreciate what you've said about me so far. And thanks for having me. It was great meeting you guys, right? I think that's also pretty cool about social media, right? It let me meet a lot of great people as well. But going into what brought me here, are we talking about business? Are we talking about me as a man? Are we talking about fitness?
Let's start off with the life story of you and what brought you to. I know there's always a backstory from everyone. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Whatever it is, there's some sort of story that from you as a kid that led you to where you are now.
Okay,
and that leads into being a man. That leads into the fitness side. That leads into the business side. I think a lot of times people discount what that story is.
For sure.
How that has brought you to here.
Gotcha. Well, the first one I can already think of is already my journey. So originally I'm from Ivory Coast, West Africa, right? So when you say about what brought me here, literally coming here at 17, right? I can think to that story. So I moved here when I was 17 with my little brother, right? Finished my last year of high school in Maryland. Stayed there with, some relatives, uncle and aunt. And that's what brought me to the United States, right? I did my last year of high school there, and that was a big culture shock for me, right? When we talk about what started forging me as a man, I think that experience within itself, leaving the nest of, like, the comfort of, like, my parents, my family, and that unit, right, to all of a sudden being in this whole new world that had this very thick African accent. They didn't dress particularly well, right? So I stood out, like, very easily, and it was a very uncomfortable time of my life, right? You think about your senior year, we're supposed to be, like, friends, prom, and, we're partying, we're finishing this chapter, and for me, it was just, like, I had to adapt during that time of my life, right? So that was particularly interesting, right? And then after that, I moved to college, and that's a whole different mountain within itself, but talking about pivotal instances of my life, like, that was a major one right there.
So where'd you go to college at?
I started off at KU. Went to KU, and then that's a whole different story because from KU I went to Johnson County, and then I was just like, all right, I'm going full on with the business.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you moved here at 17 years old.
Yes, sir.
Was there a reason for moving here?
Yes. So I was going back home. I was going to an American school back there. And it was a period of my life where the family dynamics were shifting, right? So my dad has always been, like, the one who works in our household, right? My mom stays at home. She has her own business as well. But during that time of my life when I was 17, he was going through some financial, hardships where it didn't make sense for him to put us in the private school over there, right? And so I was born in D.C., so I had citizenship. So the idea if I could come here and go to a public school for free and not be another mouth to feed, right, me and my brother, right, so there was the financial incentive there,
Yep.
and then also knowing that, like, all right, if I came a year early, I could get in-state tuition, was just like, all right, it made sense. Like, all right, let's send him there, get him to adapt, and then, move on to college.
Which I think that's crazy that, I mean, I've experienced nothing like that. Like, and there's one of my best friends came over here in the late 90s from Croatia. And one of his buddies that came over, it was so crazy. Like when I talked to him about the stories of high school and just school in general and then going to college, of how vastly different they are.
Yeah.
That he has one of his buddies, when they come over here, they didn't have clothes like we have. Like,
Right.
and they come here and they're getting free clothes from the Salvation Army, and they don't know English. And one of his buddy goes to school as like junior year of high school wearing a shirt that says #1 cheerleader. And everyone at school is like laughing at him. He's like, he just didn't understand.
Right.
And it's so crazy when you look at just the culture side of it, how different it is.
For sure.
That where you have come from, that you have came and ended up in Kansas City, Missouri, right here.
Yeah.
Like, we're not that far from home. We've traveled like 15 minutes from north. So it's just one of those things I think is very cool. I think it's very inspiring on that whole journey coming over. What led you to business? Like, what was the driving factor? You're like, you know what, I'm going to run my own business.
Sure. So that leads me to like maybe the third or fourth pivotal instance in my life, right? So in 2018, I don't know how deep we want to go into details, but I'll jump into where it got exciting. I was in the hospital in Suarez State Hospital. It's a mental institute because I had a breakdown, right? Essentially, it was a shroom trip gone bad, right? So I took a psychedelic and couldn't hang, right? Went out of my mind, and it was just like they had to put me through this process of like actually rehabilitating me where I could like be back in society and speak normally. Like I thought everyone was trying to kill me. I was just like, I went crazy, right?
So rule number 1 from the podcast is don't do shrooms.
Don't do shrooms. Do not.
I feel like that disagrees with Rogan though. So.
I have seen Mike Tyson take more shrooms than I've ever seen in my life.
I guess it depends on who takes it, right? Because it's like the people that took it were completely fine.
So this was like a lasting effect.
It was a lasting, like it was just not stopping.
Wow.
It was not stopping. In fact, that whole week is like blended in terms of like I don't even recognize the days from one another. It was just like a whole long sequel of like I'm tripping. Wait, am I tripping? Oh, I am tripping. Oh, okay.
If you have to ask, if you have to ask, you probably are.
Yeah. Right. And so they were able to like get me up to speed on just knowing what the hell was going on. And I don't know if I can curse on here.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm probably normally the worst one on here.
But yeah, but that incident led me into business because after that, so I had lost my apartment, right? Because the reason I was in that hospital is because on the trip I smashed all the windows in my apartment, right? Because I thought the walls were collapsing on me. So I was just like, I got to get out. So I broke the windows, tried to jump out of one of them. And then the guys who were with me pulled me back in. But going through that experience was like, I lost my apartment. I lost my job. I was at the all-time low, physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? It was just like questioning who I was and questioning what I was, like what got me to that point, right? And so naturally, I'm a guy who writes a whole lot, so I used to journal a whole lot. So once I started getting better in the hospital, they gave me a journal, and I started journaling and collecting my thoughts and asking myself some of these tough questions. Who would I want to be? What do I like to do? I used to work out before then, and then getting out of that, I was just like, all right, I had gotten my first aid certificate of just like doing basic CPR, right? And then the only thing I needed was to get my personal training certification. So when I got out, I was on the internet. I was just like, all right, I don't have a job. I'm down to my last $1,000, right? Let's let's try this thing, right? I have nothing to lose at this point. And then, so that's how that started, right? So I got my certification, started studying the material, was just like, all right, I'm gonna be a trainer. I'm gonna make this happen. And, you know, the rest is history.
I feel like that's where a lot of people miss that is like, you had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose, so you put everything you have into it, and you didn't have a plan B.
Right.
So many people, I feel like, start a business, and they're like, well, if it doesn't pan out, like, I could do this.
For sure.
I could do this. You're like, full head into it. It's like, let's go.
Right.
I think that's awesome.
That was
For sure.
That's definitely one of my biggest pet peeves is when I started this, I would say 9 out of 10 people when you would go to them, and I had a very high paying job when I started, stepped out to start this, and everyone's like, what are you going to do if that doesn't work?
Just go back to the job.
I'm like, that's not even the way I think.
Okay. Okay.
I go, there is no plan. This is going to work.
Right.
And I think we talk about it all the time that when you put in a plan B, you're not planning on the A plan working. You've already put that doubt in your mind.
Right.
And when you come to that spot where there is no plan B and I'm going to make this happen no matter what, that's when you start having that, I don't know, I feel like it's that drive that the second you wake up, you think about it. The second you go to sleep, you think about it. You think about it when you're sleeping, it is 100% of the time.
For sure.
But you are determining your own future.
Right.
So how long have you been running your training?
So 4 years now. My last job was 4 years ago.
And just to take a step back once more, what got you into fitness? Like, was that just something you always did, or?
No, so fitness started when I moved to college, right? So before that, I had never been to a gym, right? So working out was never like a big thing in my life until I got to college. And it boiled down to that experience when I was 17. I was just like going through that, being the outsider and be on the outside of like being an outcast, right? And I've talked about this on the previous show that I was on, but like when I got here, it's like people looked grown, like full beards in high school. Like guys who are playing football are huge, and I'm like, damn, not only am I an outsider, I'm small, I don't speak. I'm like, I felt so uncomfortable, and I really got insecure, right? I went from being a very like vibrant kid and like a loving guy to like now I'm like in my shell. And so when I got to college, I was just like, all right, I don't want to feel like this again. I want to reinvent myself. I had an image in my head of who I wanted to be and how I wanted to come out of this hole that I got myself in through my insecurities, and that involved getting jacked. So I started going to the gym. I started being consistent with it. I'd seen my brother go through his transformation in the gym, so I was just like, all right, I know this thing works, right? I saw my brother go through it. And yeah, I got really consistent. When life got hard, the gym was still like my backbone of like my go-to. My freshman year in college was like, as much as I was going to the gym, I was also like a very like party animal or like a wild guy, right? But the gym was like the one thing in my life that was just like, all right, this is bringing me further, right? Not even college. I didn't feel like college was bringing me further. But the fact that I was in the gym and working on myself was just like, all right, I'm getting better. And I have good in me and I'm capable of more, right? And so when I was done with my freshman year of college and I couldn't go back, right, due to financial reasons, I really got into the headspace of like, I have to make something of myself. And the gym was where I first proved myself, and then it became business. I have to put myself in business. But I wanted to prove myself in the gym first and reinvent myself there.
I think a lot of people find peace in the gym when it comes to growing up.
For sure.
Like, it was the same place that I found that, once again, growing up, I was never one of the bigger guys. Like, my growth spurt came very, very late. And for a long time, I was shaped like a pear. And then out of, like, junior year of high school, I find the gym. I started lifting all the time. I was like, holy cow, like, girls want to talk to me now. Like, this is cool. I'm like, it was just like the whole world flipped over really quick. And it was, I don't know, you feel there's a presence that is demanded then at that point. People respected you differently.
100%.
And it was, am I in great shape now? No. Like, there's definitely, you can tell a little difference on the couch side right now.
Those three to
when we got on the couch, it kind of went like this. I was like,
But I want to talk about the point that you said. Like, I refer to like that scene in Spider-Man, right? Once you first get in shape, when Spider-Man first realizes that like he has his powers, right? He's like, he starts shooting webs. It's just like, oh wait, this is cool. He starts to feel himself, right? And it was very much so like that. I was just like, wow, like, all right, I'm strong now. Like, I'm getting this attention now. I'm more confident. I'm standing up taller, right? That like Spider-Man effect of like, I have superpowers, literally. That's how I felt.
I think it's also very much on a lot of forefronts that if it's working out, if it's reading, if it's doing all these different things, the content, a consistency level in life, and keeping those promises to yourself builds that confidence.
100%.
And we talk about it all the time that I have a lot of confidence, not because I'm in really good shape, because I'm not. But I tell myself all the time I'm going to get up at 4:45 and go to the gym.
Right.
I get up at 4:45 and I go to the gym. I'm really good at keeping promises to myself when I say I'm going to do something, and that's where that confidence comes from. And I think I learned that through the gym, is when you're setting those times and you're like, I'm going to the gym. In college, I go twice a day. I feel like I had nothing but time.
Right.
And I would eat really healthy. I'm like, I didn't have any money, so like canned chicken was pretty cheap.
Right.
It's like all these things that people are like, oh, well, you went out to dinner and stuff with your girlfriend all the time. I was like, I bought Visa gift cards at the bookstore with my financial aid because I had no money. And that's how we go out to dinner.
You're still paying on those.
I'm still paying for those now. But it's just funny when you start keeping those promises, that confidence level just skyrockets. And I think a lot of people really discount what that can do for you. That translates into business. You look at a lot of successful business people, and a lot of their success, I was thinking about this morning when I was getting ready, on how much you watch these guys like progress, and then you see them find the gym somewhere along that progression. They end up getting into crazy physical shape, and their whole entire business just goes sky high.
100%.
And it's not because they look different. It's because their head is working different, and their head and their confidence, they eliminate that fear factor out of it.
Right.
And I think that just carries a lot into so many different aspects of life.
For sure.
That probably the one thing, if I could tell anyone, is get in the gym. Not for a physical appearance, but for your mental state.
100%.
And I think it changes so much there that, I mean, my workouts are nowhere close to what they used to be, but I'm still there.
Right.
And it's for my head. Dre, you are not there. I'm going to call you out right now. So
That's like the fourth time you've been called out on the podcast about not
I'm
going.
going to.
And he wonders why I'm like, oh man,
I'm going to do it every single time until I start seeing him at the gym again.
Positive peer pressure.
Exactly. We're doing it for
is that
you.
where we're going?
Did
Don't
you
worry, it's just on the internet.
did you start as an online trainer, or were you in a gym
No. I started in a private gym. So,
in Lawrence or?
in Lawrence,
Okay.
in Lawrence, and so I'm a big man of faith, and I think God had it planned all this time, right? Because what happened was, so once I got certified, when I went into my apartment to sign my lease, I was just like, all right, they have a gym, and I asked the lady at the counter, hey, I just got certified. I see you guys have a gym. May I do my services here? And it so turned out that the lady who worked at that front desk knew a guy who owned a private gym, but he didn't have any trainers. He had no business. And so she connected me with him, and that's where I started, running my personal training services, right? I grew that gym to a pretty well-known level in Lawrence, right? So it used to call it Omni Fitness. And, I mean, when you'd mention Omni Fitness, people knew about us, right? Again, I had a lot of, like, raw desire to prove myself when I was, in those stages. So it's just, like, what it was like I was running boot camps or inviting people to come for free, and just, like, I wanted to get the name out there as much as possible. But that's where I started. I started in person at a private gym. I started my business there. And then 2 years later is when I went online.
So when you went online, what was that driving force that said, hey, you know what, I want to move from this. This is something that has became a business, became a way I can support myself. At this point, I'm going to step out. I'm going to do this instead.
Well, I was talking to this gentleman, so I saw an ad on Facebook of, like, advertising the idea of online coaching, right? And
We didn't even pay him to drop that. Didn't even pay him to drop it.
But it works.
So Facebook ads work. Huh.
They really do, right? And it changed my life, right? I think even people have the misconception of like Facebook ads are out to like, steal money from you. But for me, it was like a life-changing experience, right? I'm grateful I found the ad because it led me to my mentor who showed me how to, scale online. But the problem was to like get more time, right? So as a personal trainer, you're selling time for dollars, right? I show up to the gym super early, right? My first clients was coming in, sometimes even at 6:30 a.m., right? I wasn't really big on boundaries back then, so it's just like, oh, you can do 6:30? Cool.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'm there.
4 o'clock, I'm there.
Right.
Did you say new client? I'm there.
Right, exactly. And so the idea of having more time and still having a sustainable business was very attractive to me. And so I bought into the business model, and at first I was very like timid about it, right? So I was like running a hybrid where it's like, I'll see you sometimes in person, but I'll work with you also online. And then the pandemic happened, like I think 6 months later after that, was just like, all right, now I have no choice but to adapt, right? So I think it was, again, nothing to fall back to, right? Because I was trying to also do like the outdoors workouts, and that was working well. But within the coaching group that we had with online trainers, I was seeing people making like crazy money. I was just like, all right, maybe I just have to pull more attention there and, do exactly what I did with the in-person training over there. And yeah, that's what it came down to, right? Yeah. Just put the work behind that. And yeah, that's how that happened.
I think that is very rare also in business owners, that you see a lot of people that, I think one of our first conversations was about a podcast. I don't know if you listened to a reel or if you listened to the podcast about the time and money.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
And
yeah, I remember
we had quite a conversation about,
for sure,
like, why I thought that way, and you think very much the same way. And I think everyone here does. And I'm very open with explaining everything to everyone that's around me and going over that you only have so many hours in a day.
Right. And
when you're training, if you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to start at 6:30 in the morning and I'm going to go till 6:30 at night. How many, you take every one of those hours that you have someone there and you say, I stack up my day 100% for 6 days a week or 7 days a week, however many days you want to work. That is your cap of what you can do.
100%.
There's nothing over that. You don't have any more time to scale over that. To where you can figure out at full capacity exactly what your life is worth a 1 year of trade at that point. And I find that is so crazy that people can sit there and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to work harder than anyone. And it's like, that is great, but you just traded a year of your life for that much money.
Right.
That we did the exact same thing. I was like, I'm just outworking everyone. I'm like getting to when we were in the automotive space, I'm getting dealership early. I'm staying later than everyone. We're cleaning cars till midnight. I'm like, no one's outworking me. And I look back at it and I was like, I did not work very smart.
Right.
And you view that scalability side, that when you start looking at how someone can scale and what a future looks like, now you can take what all those clients that you were working with before, say that 7 days a week that you're working bell to bell, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. You can now train all those people. You build out all the content for them. You train all those people with zero time.
Right.
You can be sitting on a beach training people, sipping mimosas or pina coladas, whatever you want to drink.
That doesn't sound very healthy.
Yeah.
So I would assume that your first few clients that you had online were those hybrid clients that you were already training in person.
100%.
How did you come across that first client that was just completely online? What did that look like?
I believe it was through Instagram, right?
We didn't tell them to plug that either.
So you were already doing social media at that point.
I mean, I had to, right? Because it's like, even when I was doing in-person training, it was still like, it was a small, no one knew about the gym, right? It wasn't like, say, a corporate gym where it's like, there's traffic walking in, just like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm a trainer here at the gym. You can see my shirt on my crunch. No, it's like, I had to make myself known, right? So off the bat, I had to start with content, right? And so how I got my first online client was just like, so essentially it's all about building relationships, right? Where it's like, all right, I post content, people engage with my content. I'm like, hey, how are you? Establishing that rapport. And I think it was a young lady who had posted a question on another trainer's page, and she had a question, and I think he didn't answer, and I answered it. And then I was just like, I DM'd her as well. I was just like, all right, I'll answer your question. I'll add more value as well, right? It's just like, all right, you asked about this. I'm going to answer this and then add this. And then, I kind of help with this, right, as well. So she ended up getting on a call with me. I was just like, all right, here's what I do. Here's, the results I've gotten from my clients so far. How does this sound to you, right? The whole shebang. And yeah, she enrolled, and that was my first online client. I was just like, all right, there's something there that works, and started repeating that process.
Yeah, because once you realize that you can do it once,
right?
You're like, oh, this can happen.
100%, 100%.
It is. Where did you learn the sales side of like value building and all that?
So I have to give a lot of credit to my mentor. So Brandon Carter is, who the mastermind I'm part of. And so he teaches a lot of that as well within his course. And I do a lot of reading as well, right? So I think it's just a combination of just like all the information I've gathered, along my entrepreneurship journey of like wanting to learn and wanting to see what there is. And I think a lot of established business people were, pointing me in that direction, just like add value. And so it just clicked to be like, all right, add value, right? So I think it's just like wanting to learn more and intuitively knowing that, like, all right, in order for someone to trust me, they have to see that I can, provide and deliver, right? That's what I would, say to that.
That's where I think there's a lot. I think a lot of people miss that key that, like, when you're saying that whole thing where you're like, I answered her question and brought more value.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people miss that key in the sales process of what value they bring. And we were talking about this before the podcast even started, where people are so quick to want to sell everyone all the time, where she could have asked that question and you could have replied to it and said, hey, I'm also a trainer. Right. Sign up here, blah, blah, blah. What value do you bring to it?
Right.
What value? Why should she work with you over this person that she was asked a question to?
100%. I think a lot of reasons why people are quick to make the sale, and I was like that for a long time as well, right? Because like in the beginning of stages, you're in survival mode, right, where you need the capital, and it's like I want to make this sale, so it's like you're always pitching until you shift to a place where you have maybe a little bit more of an abundance mindset. It's just like, all right, I can think about adding value and I can think about the other things. But like at the beginning, I was like, yeah, I was hungry. I was just like, buy my coaching. Buy my coaching.
I got to eat.
Right.
You're like literally hungry also.
Right.
Which I think that is 100% state that we saw in the automotive space.
I think every industry of sales.
But you can sense that desperate in salespeople.
People can smell that.
And when you see it, and I'm very much the same way when I see someone that has that. In college, when I first started selling, I'd come home and my dad would help me with gas to drive my truck back home so I could sell cars. And I was the most desperate person there. Mm-hmm. I'm like, bro, I've been eating ramen noodles and canned chicken all week. I'm like, I'd really like to sell cars. So I'd take my girlfriend out to dinner next week. That would be cool. Mm-hmm. So it's like full speed, like trying to figure out how to do this. And at first I'm like, what is the problem? And of course, my dad put me in every sales training. I was doing Joe Verde training. I'm doing Grant Cardone trading. I'm watching YouTube videos in class at school trying to learn how to sell cars. Mm-hmm. And once it became, I started seeing that when you weren't desperate about it, it became a lot easier.
Right.
And I'd go home every single Saturday. I could outsell everyone at the dealership on any given Saturday.
He wouldn't let him out of the car. He's like, you're buying it.
No, but
I don't know where your keys for your trade-in are. I think they might be on the roof.
Gone.
Wait. Hey, there was a salesperson. He's like, hey, I blocked him in. Like, you cannot do that.
Yeah. Funny story is
trapped him.
When we would have salespeople start, I would sit down and I'd tell them I went through the training. I knew almost 100% of the time if someone sat down in front of me, I told them to do all that training, they would just not do it.
Right.
So I have this guy sits down and he listens. I go, I will tell you exactly what to say. I'll tell you exactly what to do, and I'll make you a lot of money. You just listen to me all the time. And he's like, all right, 100%.
Sounds like Jordan Belfort.
And he comes in. I tell him, I go, number one rule, if this is the only rule you take away, is I talk to every single customer before they leave. I go, I want to find out what their problem is, if we can fix that problem. Because when they come here, and if they don't buy, there was a problem that we didn't overcome.
Right.
We didn't bring enough value. Something wasn't there for them to end up purchasing from us. If they've came here, they've drove the car, everything like that, they're looking to buy a car, you just didn't capitalize on actually selling it, and there's a reason. So he's been there for probably 4 days, and I'm sitting in a meeting in my dad's office. We're all sitting around desk. We have a bank in there, some other people. We're going over numbers, and this dude's like 450 pounds. So he's not a small dude. And he comes running in the door. He's like, there's this lady needs to talk to you. I'm like, why are you breathing all heavy? He's like, I parked behind her so she can't get out.
Wow.
What? I go, what? I go, running out there. I'm like, move that car. And she's like, she was super cool. I ended up talking to her for a while. I'm like, I apologize. 100% my fault.
Right.
My fault. I told him I had to talk to every customer before they left. So he just parked the car behind her, came inside, and didn't say anything to her.
Right.
She's like, I'm trying to back out. She ends up buying a car.
That was awesome.
And
that's awesome.
it was just funny, and like the way the whole thing progressed. And I go, do not do that again. He's like, you told me that you have to talk to every customer.
Right.
That's the only way. That's the only way he was going to get her to stop.
But the dude did phenomenal at selling cars. Like, killed it. But
awesome.
he was always open to learning. He listened to what he was supposed to do. And we had done that stuff. So we had went through that training. So I knew how to help him.
For sure.
And I was like, just build value, build value, build value, build value. And I was like, overcome problems. I go, everyone has a problem with whatever it is. If somebody's coming to you to train, it may not be for fat loss.
Right.
It may be their back hurts.
100%.
It may be something completely different than what they could talk to 10 trainers, and every trainer would be like, hey, I can lose you 20 pounds in this.
Right.
Or I can do this. I can do that. Like, but no one's going to listen to them and find out what their actual problem is.
Sure.
You figure out what their problem is, and you can fix that problem, 100% of people will pay you.
100%. And it's funny that you bring that up, because recently I've been like, so I've been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs and guys in real estate, and I'm finding that fitness is not even what people are coming to me for at this point, right? So, and I'll give you a couple examples, right? So I had a gentleman who was speaking to me, and who was just like, what he saw in me that he wanted was just like the sense of peace and the sense of just like, all right, I'm in control, right? What he found himself when was like, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like this, myself included, where our identities mesh with the business, right? So he didn't have any boundaries or any sense of like separation. And so what he was looking for was accountability and creating those boundaries for himself, right? Now, obviously, we can do that through, adding fitness in the mix of like creating yourself a morning routine of going to the gym. But it's just like, it wasn't about I want to lose weight or I want to build muscle. It's just like I just want to be more at peace and have a sense of routine, right? Separation. And so that was like the point of like identifying what the problem is, of like, all right, hearing out this guy's story and where he's coming from, and then speaking to that was big, right? Because I can be like, okay, but how much fat are you trying to lose though? Like I could focus on that, right? On the objective of like on the fitness, but like that's not what this guy's pain was about, right? And I'm hearing that time and time again. In people are not like, the fitness thing is often like a symptom of like a deeper rooted problem or a deeper thing that they're trying to solve. And so learning to pay attention to that and understanding what the actual problem is and speaking to that if I can help has been big, extremely huge.
I think when you start overcoming those obstacles, I think I've already watched from the outside in, I feel like your business has progressed a lot.
For sure.
And I don't even know your business model. You can tell, though,
right.
A lot of times, though, from the way someone carries themselves, from the way that their business performs on social. I can tell you from your consistency on social, I know business is going well.
Right. That's going great.
And
going fantastic.
Every single 10 out of 10 people that do what you've done on social are going to be successful. Mm-hmm. Or at least more successful than they currently are.
Right.
So when you look at that and you look at the way that I don't even want to say selling, I want to say helping people.
Right.
Because you're bringing that, once again, sometimes people aren't looking to the fitness space for fitness.
Right.
I will never step foot on a show stage.
Mm-hmm.
I never have the desire to.
Mm-hmm.
Would I like to be in a little bit better shape? Yeah. But it's also, I know my eating is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things I can try as much as I want to fix it, but it is not high. It does not deem over business of what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
So I eat out of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can ask everyone here. Most of the time I'm just eating. It's door dashing. It's something that's quick. I want the food here. I don't want to have to go pick it up.
Sure.
I don't even want to have to mess with the microwave. I want it to show up. I can eat it. I can go right back to working.
Right.
And it is, today we got here at like 8. We rolled out to got things handled here. We head out to a meeting. We haven't stopped running until now.
Mm-hmm.
This first time I got to sit down for the day.
Feels good, right?
I don't know. I like running. Like I enjoy it. Like right before we started, I'm drinking a 5-hour energy. I'm like, I got to revamp myself.
Sure.
Like,
Gotcha.
and it's just like we run full speed 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes I have to take a second to think like, why does my head hurt so bad? Why is it like 4 o'clock and my head feels like it's going to explode?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's because I haven't eaten today.
Right.
I went to the gym at 5 o'clock this morning. I haven't eaten all day.
Right.
And it
Immediate
is
fasting.
no, but it's very much one of those things that I just don't think about it.
Right.
That's not the highest thing on my list of which it probably should be.
Should be.
It should definitely be a lot higher. But when you can bring that peace to someone that I love business, I love everything we do here, but I will tell you the best part of my week is the hour and a half I have at the gym in the morning by myself. I do not answer emails. I do not answer phone calls. I do not answer text messages. That is a time, and the reason I like to go really early is because most of the time people aren't messing with me yet.
Right.
Afterwards, it's game on. But that time is my time. So it just brings me that peace that, like, when I'm at the gym in the morning, I'm like, I can take on the world.
Right.
Like, I can do anything.
Right.
It's,
Support it.
yeah, and then I can tell on days I don't go to the gym. I'm like, where is that? I just don't have that motivation today. Like, where is it at? Like, where's it at? I didn't go to the gym. That's why.
Right.
But I think that watching your business and what you've done, I mean, and I want to dive into the social part. And where did you, most of the time somebody has some sort of like background in social media management, video editing, content creation, something. Like where did you get all the, like, I know you said that your ad copy is phenomenal. I know you said you journaled and stuff. Like the ad copy is,
I appreciate that, man.
rarely do I see that amount of ad copy written that well to
You
relay a
actually
message.
read it.
I do read it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm doing
It's-
something right.
It's, but like I said, I have a very high level of respect for that because I know the work that goes into that.
Yeah.
Where did that all come from?
Man, I mean, like I said, you know, it comes from a raw hunger of wanting to do better in business, right? And I realized that, you know, there's one approach which didn't work, you know, and there was other approaches where I got that positive reinforcement, right? Whether it be, you know, you who sends me a message like, hey, great stuff, or someone that, you know, responds to my call to action or the engagements, right? So just like understanding what works through the feedback that I'm getting and just like double downing on that, right? You know, I consider myself to be someone who I enjoy the creativity aspect of content creation, of like what goes into it. So it's something I genuinely enjoy. So it's like every time I'm approaching it like a craft, right, getting better about it. And it comes with, you know, the idea of like, I know I want to excel in business, so I know, you know, it's a skill that I have to get better about. The better I can get about this, the better my business will be. And that's been continuously getting better as a result of that, right? So it's just, all right, I see these guys have captions on their videos or like emojis. How do I do that? And I'll like, you know, Google it or YouTube it. And like I use Premiere Pro, and like I'll mess around on the back end. I'm like, all right.
That wasn't an easy task to learn because I remember
It was not.
when I jumped
My
into Premiere,
videos sucked at first.
when
It
I
was
first
not.
jumped into videos, it was probably like 5 years ago now. First time I ever opened Premiere Pro, I didn't even like go through a free trial or anything. I let it pops up. I'm like buying it. I'm like, I got this. I open up. I'm like sitting in my living room. I'm like, oh my God.
What is all this?
What is this stuff? And I had it probably for a month before I even uploaded a video into it. I'd pull it up and I'd normally look at it for like 20 minutes. And I'd pull up a YouTube video and I'd be in so far over my head. Kind of same thing when I bought coding books. Like I was going to learn how to code. Those coding books, I might as well just create a fire out in my backyard with them because it's all they're valued at. But it's Premiere Pro is a chore to learn to start.
Yeah. Hey, so 2 days ago, I learned how to edit out my first green screen of like taking that out of the background and like having so it's like, it's like I had this vision of how I wanted this video to turn out. There was a green screen behind me. It wasn't really pretty. It was just like, how do I remove the green screen? Watch a quick little video. It's just like, all right, there you go. And now I'm gonna do that a whole lot of like, changing the background. One day it's white, one day it's blue, one day it's different colors, right?
Yeah.
But learning skills like that, it's like having a vision of what I want my content to turn out and finding the ways to do it.
I'm gonna ask you a question that this week we all had the luxury of. We went and talked to my high school that I went to. They reached out for us to come talk from all their entrepreneur classes, their marketing classes, everything like that. I didn't think I'd end up in a classroom and a 16-year-old kid would like throw me for a complete loop on a question. Like I'm on a podcast every week. We're doing all this stuff. I feel like I'm always talking to people. This kid asked me a question, just like stopped me in my tracks.
Now I'm scared.
I know. Which I feel like most people probably can. I don't think I answered it well, and it was something I've thought about it, and there's like a couple like moments, but I don't know where it really came from. But we're going through everything. We're going over like mindset. And that's something I also think a lot of why I gravitated to what you did was I like your mindset on everything. And we're going over that with our entrepreneur class, and this kid's like, hey, he goes, where do you get all this drive from? And I was like, that's a hard question. And so I see that you have a lot of drive in what you do. Where does that come from?
I'm curious to know what you answered to that. So where does my drive come from?
So that's about how I started too. I was like, I go,
right. Man, I mean, it's a tough question, right? Because it's like, it's something that I continuously look for even till this day, right? But man, I mean, it evolved. All right, so at the beginning, it came from a place of like, I wanted to prove myself, right? It's just like, I was the underdog. I felt like, a lot of the people around me didn't believe that I could achieve what I've done. So it's just like, all right, I want to prove them wrong, right? So that was like my first drive of like, I'll shove it in your face that I can do it, right? And then it became more of a place of like, okay, I am doing it, so it's like, it's not about proving them wrong anymore, so what else is there? And then it shifted to a more of like, all right, what's my full potential and, what does that look like? And it's growing more even towards that in terms of like even embedding purpose in that and like, all right, what is my purpose? So I can't pinpoint one place exactly where my drive comes from. I think it's just like a combination of like my experiences, both the good and the bad, wanting to prove myself, wanting to reach my full potential, wanting to live a purposeful life. I don't even know if that answers it, but it's like,
that's how I kind of felt. I like I said, I feel like it's a pretty loaded question that
right.
I feel like it's hard to pinpoint one spot. And it's something I've been thinking about like all week, that I very much like to normally have some sort of answer to a lot of things. And I feel like that was the first time that it was very much threw me off. And I feel like that doesn't happen a whole lot.
Right.
And it was, Ricky, how did I answer that?
I'd have to, it wasn't
pretty.
Wasn't that great.
Yours was way better.
Your answer was a lot better than his.
Yours was way better. I
I think you even said, like, man, I don't think I'm a good person to answer that. Like, I've just kind of always had the drive.
I was like, I feel like I've had the drive. I feel like I had, which now I think back on it, I think I was lying at that point. Like, kind of in like, I think I had some drive.
Mm-hmm.
I never had the level of drive I have now. But I also, as I thought about it more, like when I think back of all these things that I can remember, like one time that in my life where I sat there and I really wanted to change like everything for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the start of my sophomore year in college. I'd messed up pretty much everything I could freshman year of college.
Mm-hmm.
The only good thing that came from my freshman year of college was meeting my significant other, Madison. And starting sophomore year, I had made a lot of money over the summer, and I'd spent every single dollar of it. And
He was borrowing money from me.
I'm borrowing money from him. I had no money to my name, and I had a brand new truck sitting at school that I couldn't put gas in.
Wow.
And I had a scooter that I rode everywhere. And I remember riding to school on a scooter when it was cold as shit out. And I had like goggles on. I had like a hoodie with a coat over it and everything. I keep the scooter in my kitchen so it'd start in the morning because it's so cold. And I remember driving to Walmart and I had $10 to my name to buy food. And I'm like, I suck. I'm like, I have no earthly idea why this girl is with me.
Right.
I'm like, why would I want to be with me? Like, at this point, I was going to the gym twice a day. I was in good shape. But, like, everything else about me kind of sucked. I was like, I really have to change a lot of things. And that was, like, when I look back, not even close to how I answered that question with the kid sitting in a high school room. But I totally botched it at that point. Now, after I've thought about it more, like, that's probably the only spot I can really pinpoint that I really never wanted to live like that. And that gave me a lot more drive, and I did way better through the rest of college, everything of that nature. But then even after school, I've hit points where I don't know exactly where it came from.
Right.
But
as you were talking, I was also thinking to the fact that like drive also compounds itself, right? And you were talking about like it's gotten to a point where you feel like you've always been like this, and I think it in a lot of ways it becomes like, you know, a habit as well, right? Drive becomes a habit where it's not a like, oh, I have this deep rooted purpose. It's a part of who you are, right? Where it's like you're driven by your accomplishments, and that leads to the next one, and you're just like, it's you know, it's like you're looking for that next dose of crack, which comes through your achievements, right? It's like, all right, I need to achieve more so I can feel fulfilled. And that within itself drives you.
We're taking him to the next high school speaking deal.
I don't want to talk to crack about kids to the kids, but
we can call it dopamine.
Yeah.
We'll just call it dopamine.
Yeah, exactly.
Be perfect.
He definitely killed that one.
Go by signs.
Yeah, that was I think normally I have an answer for a lot of things, and that was the first time
He stumped you.
He did.
Big time.
And
We all just look at Anwar.
Yeah, they all look
You
at me
got
like
it.
I was behind the camera, so nobody was looking at me.
Ricky just clicks it off.
I was like, this is the one.
Right.
This is going
the
on my
real
story.
we're looking for. Yeah, I feel like there's so many different things that factor into business and a business owner, and I've really tried to build this into something that everyone is like their own business owner within here, that everyone they don't have a ceiling working here.
That's awesome.
And I feel like that's also what's led to a higher caliber of staffing here, that I will put my team of people up here against anyone out there that wants to.
For sure.
And I know their work ethic. I know their abilities. I know everything like that. And I feel like I'm always probably the biggest cheerleader for all of them. But I see this grander picture of everyone here. And I think when you surround yourself with those people, I think that, once again, there's so many of those different things that go into a business owner that those kind of people I very much gravitate to.
Yeah.
And I feel you have done a phenomenal job of relaying that into video. I feel like I'm not always the best at doing that, and it's something I have worked on. I know it's a problem I have. I've always been much more fearful of video, though. This year is probably the first time anyone's really seen me on video.
This month, I would say.
Well,
I mean, the podcast in general, but like stories.
But I'm saying the podcast starting the podcast was the most uncomfortable thing I'd done up to that spot. We were going to start a podcast. I was not my jam.
Right.
College, I would go talk to lecture halls filled with sorority girls with like 200 sorority girls in it.
Mm-hmm.
No problem talking to them. It was like, whatever, like easy. You put a camera in front of me in a room by myself, I'm like, I'm like, and then the podcast, I started getting comfortable. I'm like, I mess up on the podcast. Ricky can edit it. This is great.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, now I've gotten comfortable again. I need to get uncomfortable. So then it goes into talking on Instagram stories. That's been a very huge uncomfortable spot for me to go into.
Yeah. I feel you there, man.
And
it's uncomfortable.
Then it's gotten into a coaching group that for like 3 days I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, we got the first coaching call. And like, everyone's going to like pop on, be looking at me on what I'm going to say. I'm like, how can I better these people's lives? And I get done with it. And one of the people that had joined works with my dad. And he goes, she loved the call. She got so much out of it. I talked about how uncomfortable I was talking on stories. It was 4 hours later? 3-4 hours later, I see a story pop up. First time I've ever seen it, of her sitting there talking.
Awesome.
Going over, I'm like, it works.
Yeah,
I go,
yeah.
That is like the biggest like satisfaction I have out of everything we do.
For sure.
But
and social media is just such a huge lever you can pull in business, especially with video, because it doesn't matter if one person watches it or 10 million. It's the exact same amount of work on your part.
Right.
So
just like purpose that video like countless times.
Exactly. And just like you answered that question that gal had in the comments, there's a chance that somebody else is going to see that too.
Right.
It's not like you're just having a one-on-one interaction. Like when you put stuff out there, it's out there, and you don't know the long-term effects of what's going to happen.
Right. And that's a double-edged sword, right? Because there's also the fact that like, crap, if it's bad, then it's like
100%.
It's there forever, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the world has seen me at my worst, right? So I think for me, that drives a certain degree of like always trying to create the perfect content, which can slow you down a whole lot, right? It's like spending 3 hours on one piece of content, and we're talking about off camera about like the algorithm, and like you get like 300 views or whatever, and it's like it does terrible. But yeah, it's like the fact that like your content is out there and it's out there forever. Yeah. It's like you're adding value as well. It's like, all right, let me make sure that if this is the last time someone sees me, it counts. All right, it counts.
My deal is like, I think about it all the time, and this can be kind of a morbid way to think about it. But I think about like, I drive home tonight, I die in a car wreck, I'm gone. Everyone's going to be very upset tomorrow, right? Maybe. They're going to be upset in a week. They're going to be upset in a month. 2 years from now, no one's going to even be thinking about it. So I look at this content the same way, like, you care so much about what everyone thinks every single time you post something,
right,
that realistically, this isn't a death. This isn't something that is that big. What you are overanalyzing yourself, someone else isn't going to think about by midday.
Right. No, you're right.
Like, you could post this video that to you and I were like, whoa, that was not very good. And I've really struggled with the not high-level production style stuff because I just hold this standard that I have in my head that me just driving down the road with my phone recording is like, I'm like, this really is not that high level. But I've had so many people like screenshot, like, bro, every single time I jump on Instagram or Facebook, I see your face pop up, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, people are seeing it. And I'm like, okay, it's working. Once again, it's trusting that process. But like Ricky was saying, you can hit so many people. Think about getting up every morning and being able to talk to 2,000-3,000 people on your drive into work.
Right.
Like, I feel like that's so crazy that that's like possible.
Sure.
Like if you went to a business owner in 95 and say, hey, you drive into work, you can reach 2,000 people on your drive to work. Any business owner on the planet would have done that. And now we have the ability to do that with our phone every single morning or all day, every day, really. Right. Not even in the morning. You can do that at any given point in time. We can jump on a video right now and reach 2,000 people like that.
It's powerful, man.
one thing that can really help people build a personal brand, and I wouldn't say this necessarily applies to the higher end, like commercial setting, but if you're building a personal brand, are you familiar with Pareto's 80-20 principle?
In terms of like 20% of your, I am. Yeah,
So like
20% of your 20% of your success comes from 20% of what you do, and the other 80% is just like little details.
Yeah, so like in this instance, the 20% that you put in to make a video is going to get 80% of the results. But to get that last 20%, you're going to have to spend the other 80% of your effort.
Right.
So if you just get it good enough to post and don't worry as much about it being like absolutely perfect, because then you're going to be able to push out way more quantity.
100%.
The reason that doesn't necessarily apply to like higher end commercial stuff is you have a really high bar that you need to live up to because you're selling an expensive product.
Right.
But personal brand, if you just do that 20% and just get stuff out there, because we've spent hours on a video that gets no views, like we were talking about, and some of the silliest stuff just blows up.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's probably the biggest pet peeve in the marketing space.
as a creator,
As
it
a
drives
creator.
me nuts.
Yeah.
You work hours on something, you post, and you're like, whoa, I got 300 views.
Right.
And then I'm like at a detail shop and I like film a truck pulling out. And then I'm like driving back, go to a meeting. I'm in a meeting. My phone's like blowing up. They're like, hey, your reel has like 25,000 views in the last like hour. I'm like, what?
Right.
And it's just, there's no rhyme or reason to that on that short form video stuff. But if you're going to go run paid advertising behind a video, that's where that high level content comes and becomes so crucial.
For sure.
Because then it's playing into your brand image.
Right.
Exactly. So you want that brand image that first time someone's ever seen your brand, because the people following you, that organic branding is people follow us. They've seen photos of us. They've seen the podcast. They've seen all these other facets of our company and they follow us. So now when they see a video come up, it's much more of that just organic push of like, hey, I'm going to see what he has to say this morning when he's driving to work, or I'm going to see what they have to say. I'm see what's on their story. Somebody that's never seen us before, never even heard of us, and they see a video pop up, they're like, you want them to think like, whoa, that is the highest quality video I've seen today.
Right.
I'm going to click through. I want those people helping me out.
100%.
So there's, I don't know, different forefronts when it comes to all that stuff. And it's a very, very hard space to navigate as social media, the digital footprint as a whole, that we talk to people daily on what it takes on the Google, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Instagram, the LinkedIn, the TikTok now, the Snapchat, the Twitter. There's just so many platforms to reach people.
Right.
And a lot of people, I think, want it all immediately, and it's something that you have to conquer one at a time and start bringing them all together and to really navigate the whole space.
Is Instagram your spot, or what's your favorite social media?
Recently it's been Facebook, man. So I started off like really big on like, I thought, Instagram was the end all be all, but I realized that like people responded to my content a lot more on Facebook recently, right? Yeah, Facebook has been like my favorite recently.
Facebook, I'll definitely say right now, is the biggest grill in the room for conversions. YouTube, if you can gain an audience from it,
Right.
works very well. The audience building side of that is very difficult. That does not happen for everyone.
Right.
The Facebook way, 10 out of 10 business owners that come to us, we can sit down with and we can make Facebook work to actually correlate to business back or business coming to them
For sure.
from that content, that organic push, the paid push, all these different things.
Right.
To where the Facebook is definitely, I believe, in the world today, probably the quickest return on money and best bang for your buck.
I would also say Facebook's really pushing reels right now. So if you notice, if you go to your profile and you've posted a reel, there's your posts and then there's also your reels. Like there's a separate tab for it. And that's pretty new. I don't know when it popped up.
I didn't know that.
Ricky, I think, is the only one that has it because I've been trying to find it. I will say that everyone here is much better at everything they do than me. So they're all rocking reels on Facebook. I'm still trying to find out where I can post a reel on Facebook.
I would definitely lean into Facebook Reels if you aren't already.
I'm not. I've been doing the like raw videos because like, yeah, I haven't been doing Facebook Reels. I've just been like Facebook videos or photos, but I have to start doing that because when I first started, my first experience with Facebook Reels was like, I mean, at the time I didn't have much traction on Facebook, so I think subconsciously I was just like, all right, Facebook Reels sucks, and I discarded it because I like the idea of like a lot of the value that I post is also in my copy, and I don't like the fact that that the Reels makes your copy like super small and makes it insignificant, right? Whereas when I write copy, I want to make sure that you're taking attention to that. So it's a combination of like using Reels for exposure, you get a lot of people in, and then do the other stuff. But I take your word for it. I mean, you guys have a great thing going on here, so I have to start. I have to start checking out Facebook Reels a lot more and see where that takes me.
The market is ever changing, so that is how you win, is just keeping up with market.
For sure.
And what we did a month ago till now is different, and it's just always keeping up, being the most cutting edge, being in front of all the trends that are happening, doing your research day in and day out. I mean, right now, like I said, Facebook Reels are out of nowhere, all of a sudden working. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, very, very new space.
Right.
We're probably the only company around messing with TikTok right now. Like, TikTok is something I'd probably, if I were you, I'd lean very heavy into.
Do you have a TikTok right now?
I do not. I do not. I need to get one. And it's like, and I get on all this, everyone tells me I need to. And it's like, I'm just stuck in my old ways. I just have to like, just create that account and just start posting as I post on
the crazy
Facebook.
thing is, most people I talk to, I'd say, hey, it's going to be really hard, because if I'm talking to someone or if any of us are talking to someone that runs Facebook and Instagram right now with photos only, and I'm like, hey, you should get TikTok, but you have no video. So now we're trying to get them on the forefront of actually doing video.
Right.
You actually have that video already there.
Right. Just got to post it there as well.
You post it there.
Yeah.
I've watched your content. Your content is going to absolutely kill it on TikTok.
That'll be my homework for this week. I'll create that TikTok, make that first video, and I'll let you guys know how.
I'm telling
and
you,
the YouTube.
I'm telling you,
and the YouTube.
I think you would crush it on YouTube. And the thing is, you already have the same video that you're going to use, right?
How about this? I got an idea. We help you with content. This might be like a live sale that happens right here. This is something that could work.
Right.
I have enough confidence in you on YouTube that we would help build out all your content and your videos and everything. And you can use that content across all platforms. We would help you with everything. We just get the monetization from your YouTube channel, if it ever hits.
What's in it for me?
You're going to get free content for everything. You get a full staff of people to help you. I think that if you hit all these platforms, your TikTok's going to take off. We will help run TikTok ads. You get all these. If you match all your platforms up together, the YouTube's going to be the hardest one to get off the ground.
Right.
But if YouTube gets off the ground, the rest of them, you will have more clients than you know what to do with. We met a content creator out in Utah that his whole business model is he works with fitness influencers.
Sure.
And what he does is he takes the monetization from their YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. A lot of them don't even have YouTube. They've built a platform on Instagram, Facebook, your main platforms. He comes to him, he says, hey, I'll take over all of your content creation, and I'll help you with your content. I'll help you with everything. I'll help you with your marketing. And then all I get is your monetization from YouTube, if it hits. And he has gotten all of them to be huge.
Right.
He also works with Jake Paul and Logan Paul and all these people, but his structure of what he does is completely different. Mm-hmm. But he's like, I also bet on people that I believe it's going to work on.
For sure.
He goes, I've had fitness people come to me and they're like, hey, I want to do the same thing. It's like, no. And it's, if he believes it would work.
Right.
But it's something that for you to take a YouTube channel and go make it big, it can't be done by yourself.
Right. Oh, 100%.
So that's one of those things that I believe in what you're doing enough that YouTube, I think we want to find some people that we can take from the ground level up. If somebody comes to us with a monster following and everything like that, and they say, hey, we want you to do this, it's already going to work.
Right.
You take somebody from the ground up on YouTube and you go make them a star, they can start an apparel line and you can sell as much apparel as you want. You start all these other things, and you can do as much as you want because you now have an audience. Mm-hmm. And you make business models all over the place that drive off of that. You say, hey, I have these content guys over here and my marketing backing that get my YouTube monetization.
Yeah.
I'd
be down to talk about that.
I had my Prime drink over here. Now it's over there, so I can't put it on camera. But I don't know if you've read the label on that, the Prime hydration.
I have not. No,
it's not that good.
It doesn't taste good.
It tastes wonderful.
Okay. Like from a health standpoint,
as a hydration drink, it only has 10 milligrams of sodium in it.
Mm-hmm. That's what Ricky's been doing over there.
That's what I've been doing over there.
Inside my bottle.
But the reason it's so big, somebody else formulated it, but then Logan Paul has this monster audience and plenty of money to kick it out. This is the only reason it's big.
Right.
And now it's everywhere.
I was watching so Alex Hormozy, he had a recent like sequence where he shared that's like influencer marketing is like the next big thing, right? You know, when you look at guys like Kylie Jenner or like brands are looking to people who have the reach in order to sell their product, right? So yeah, no, that's makes sense why Prime is such a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
so think about after you build your audience. So once again, we're talking to this guy, he builds this audience. I don't know, Prime comes to you to sell their drinks and they say, hey, we want you holding one of our drinks in every one of your videos, everything like that. We're not getting any of the money off that. Those are partnerships between you and these people. But once you build that brand, it's crazy what anyone with a brand and a following can do. Mm-hmm. And most people lack in keeping up with the content, keeping up with the consistency, keeping up with all these other facets of growing. Mm-hmm. Because if you're working out all the time, you're working on your Instagram, you're working on your Facebook, then you get an influx of content to all those things also. Plus, your YouTube's being ran without you having to do anything.
Right.
You're getting on TikTok, you're running ads over here. Overnight, you become something so big in an area.
Right.
Like we were talking about yesterday, like you're in very good shape. Like I'm not saying that in like a weird way. But it's one of those things that like if I'm in the fitness space, I'm looking to someone to help me with fitness, I would have no problem working with you.
Right.
My problem is when some dude that's like 300 pounds out of shape is trying to tell me how to work out.
Right,
like I don't believe
right.
You want to look to someone that's done it.
Yeah, especially like as a trainer, like you have to, that first obstacle is like, we'll definitely make sure you're in at least good shape.
100%.
Yeah. You don't need to be like ready to step on stage, but like you got to look like you work out.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, yeah, I just think that's
it always catches me off guard when I go into a big box gym and like all of the trainers look like they've just stepped on the gym floor.
Right.
And I'm like, what is going on?
Nah, I see that a lot as well, right? I think it's a lot of, I don't even know what to call it, but yeah, you know, it's like illusions that people have to themselves that's like, you know, it's like, take care of yourself first. Yeah. You know, that's how I see it.
It's one of those things
like, that was
like
a nice
you need to hire me. You need to hire me, and then you know you can get back in business.
I look at it as like I'm sitting here. I don't feel like I'm in terrible shape. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like I'm anywhere close to you two in shape. And I go to the gym, and I feel like I'm in better shape than all. I know, Dre. I'm not. I said not even close. Like I'm a ways away. But when I go to the gym,
I didn't say anything.
And look at the trainers there. I'm like, well, I'm in better shape than the trainers that work that train here. Like, right. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a crazy space that you're in on that side. And I feel like there's few people that actually have all the keys they can put into place to make it work. And I feel like you do have those keys to be a big name in the fitness space, and you have the right mindset on what you're doing and all that. And
I appreciate that, man. I mean, I'm in the process, so I mean, I'd be happy to talk about that and see how we can make that work. It definitely sounds like if I'd have to put much time into it, you know, we can definitely talk about that.
They're gonna be like on the podcast, like this dude can't close nothing.
Are you gonna ask him the big question, other than the other big question you asked earlier?
Oh yeah. So this is like normally my ending question. So this is Ricky's always the one watching the time. He's like keeping track on me.
I already messed up the file codec on one of the cameras, so the card filled up, so that's why I had to get up and fix it.
But one of like the biggest deals is I think a lot of times people will go through life and they never think back on like their experiences and everything they've learned. If you could go back to your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? I keep this loaded question for the very end.
It's a good question. I want to make sure I'm thinking about it because I think it's an important question. Right?
While you're thinking about that, have we ever asked Dane that question?
Who?
Who? Is there an owl in here?
Is there an owl in here? Do you want me to answer it first? This might be what podcast are we on?
Is this 32? I feel like it's 32.
I feel like it's 32. And it's the first time Ricky's ever turned this back on me.
Well, every time he says, like, hey, I have this really big question, I haven't heard Dane's answer to it.
All right. See, now I'm sitting there thinking. See, this. Now I feel like what you're in.
All right.
We can come back to you.
I think it's, if I could go back, I feel like it's not that long ago. I'm 28 years old. If I look back at 20, I don't think I understood how much time I had. And I don't think I really grasped what I could do in life. I thought that I was thinking outside the box. I thought I could do all these things. And I don't know if it was a confidence deal. I don't know if I had fully developed like full self-confidence at that point yet. And I don't know if that's something that is ever evolving. And I don't know if I'm old enough to speak on that yet, to have a super perfect answer. But that just thinking way bigger than life is, if I could go back and I sat right in front of myself at 20 years old, I would say, whatever you're thinking, think 20 times that. That you can do absolutely whatever you want and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Because a lot of people, as I started this journey into Moss Marketing Group, 99% of people told me I couldn't do it. And there's not a lot of people that high-five you and tell you that you can do it. The world is a very backwards place, and I don't think I really understood how many people cheer for you not to succeed. And I think I would go back and tell myself, just think 20 times bigger, make it all happen, and you can do whatever you want.
I like it.
I don't know if that was
powerful. No, it was super powerful, man. Yeah, I mean, everything that you said is like, super golden advice, and I wish, someone would have told me that when I was 20. For me, it would really be a matter of like, so when I was 20, I was in a time in my life where I was getting started with college or either like wrapping up my freshman year, right? So what I would tell that guy will be, man, it's such a, because I want to go with the idea of like, all right, define what you want to be tomorrow, right? Be super clear in terms of who you want to be. But again, I feel like, we can be wrong in that definition, right? But I would just tell him, like, have a sense of vision of, where you're heading in life, right? My 20-year-old self was wandering around aimlessly, doing whatever people were doing around me, right? It's just like, they're doing this, I'm doing that. She's doing this, I'm with it, right? I was getting involved with everything that was going on around me, and I didn't have a sense of identity myself, right? So I didn't know who I was. So I would tell him to take a step back, ask yourself those tough questions. Who are you? What do you like? Where do you want to go in life? What's important to you? What are your values? What are your standards? And make sure you walk with integrity in alignment with that, right? Rather than be pulled in 1,000 different directions the world wants to pull you in, right? Have your own sense of moral compass and believe in that, right? I think it's also a very important thing to say, believe in that. Because it's one thing to say it, it's another to like actually believe it, right? And walk that. So that's what I would say, man. You know, define your moral compass, believe in it, and, you know, have faith in God, walk towards that light, and you will get there, man. You'll get there. You'll take a lot of beatings for sure, but you'll get there.
That's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
I think that was a pretty
Love it.
solid answer.
That was great.
really
I
solid.
feel like he just blew me out of the water. I feel like I hit something, and he took all that time to think. He was manifesting over
I was just loading.
and he was like, I got this. He's like, They gave me a little bit of time. Let's go. No, I mean, I couldn't agree with all that more. And again, I couldn't thank you enough for being on the podcast. I hope people that are on here got benefit from it. We talk about it all the time. If we can help one person with the podcast, we're accomplishing what we set out to do.
For sure.
And real quick, just to clarify, are you strictly online right now, or do you have in person as well?
I know strict online.
Perfect. And we'll have all those links down below.
So we're going to link all that stuff below.
Perfect.
For the people watching on YouTube. I don't know what Ricky does on Spotify.
So Spotify is not below. It's still in the description.
Okay. Yep. So if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, so in the description.
I think we're on Pandora. I don't know where that is.
Yeah. Pandora is pretty sketch. They went through like a 4-week approval process. That's out in limbo.
Some say that's a great music platform. I'm just
Especially if you don't pay for premium.
Exactly.
Listen to all the ads.
So this dude over here gets 5 skips.
Yeah.
That's it.
A day.
Wow.
Per station.
So-
station.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's why Dre's never allowed on the sticks anywhere because we're going to listen to ads majority of the
I ain't
night.
paying $5 for music.
So,
But I wanted to say, so you said you hope this podcast can inspire this one person. And I would say, like, for me, man, this has, a big impact on me. Just like seeing how you guys operate, and I don't know if they can see the behind the scenes and how much you guys share of what is actually going on here behind the camera. But like simply stepping foot in here, man, it shifted my perspective on what's possible, right? You guys have a whole studio. I see the team working here. You guys have that sense of like culture, that rapport. And it's like, I want to have something like that myself, right? I want to have an ecosystem which speaks of my brand and which speaks of my vision. So what you guys have done here is like amazing. It's like super inspiring. So that one person is me right now. Like I'm greatly impacted by being here. So I appreciate it.
I very much greatly appreciate you saying that. And it's, once again, I'm beyond thankful for everyone that surrounds me. They are the ones that make this all possible, and they're the ones that make the whole world go round each day here. I don't like when I go out and I talk to a bunch of people and everyone's like, they think it's me doing it all. I'm like, I promise you I'm like, I don't even know really what my job title is now here, but it is all of them that make it work. And
Yeah.
Farm video guy.
I'm like,
we figured that out.
I've pretty much like, I'm the farm video guy. I do like
Farm and like heavy equipment.
Like I got to go buy a hard hat after work. So
your morning talk tomorrow will be in a hard hat, correct?
Exactly. So
Well, actually, that's
it's going to be next week. So
a few days ago now.
But once again, like when I brought up your name on coming on here, everyone was like, "Who is he?" Like I'm like, I talk to him all the time. Like this is like, it was just one of those things that I knew this podcast was going to be great, and I think it's lived up to everything I wanted to be.
Awesome.
And I hope everyone that's listening, once again, enjoyed it. And I have a feeling there's going to be another one down the road, and you're going to be 10 times bigger when that one happens.
That's right.
We might be running the YouTube channel. So
Yeah. We'll talk more about that.
But I think this is where we key it. Any last words?
Be great.
Be great.
Go after what you want.
I love it.
Let's all make it happen. I'm hoping someone's on the sticks. I don't know if I'm keying Lauren or keying Dalton or someone over there.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.